this computer. Okay. So just a quick roadmap for today. You already heard the welcoming remarks from Ms. Cox. We'll talk about what is land use, what is zoning, and what the zoning in 10th Street is. We'll talk about the comprehensive plan, what's the purpose of a comprehensive plan, and the City of Dallas Forward Dallas comprehensive plan. We'll talk about the importance of a neighborhood plan and the role it could play in neighborhoods. And then we'll just wrap up with next steps and the next meeting.
So just to set the scene, right, we wanted to provide this very brief aerial view on the history of advocacy in the 10th Street Historic District. So as you're all probably well aware, it was designated as a landmark district in the 90s. And since then, there's been several different, revitalization or neighborhood advocacy efforts, both from within the community and outside the community. And we just wanted to provide this overview for two reasons. One, we recognize that there's a long history of advocacy, and we are just the latest kind of step in this long ladder that has come before us. And then also to highlight that there's many tools in the toolbox. I mean, while we are planners and we're working with you all on the land use and zoning piece, there's so many other tools available that this group has used, such as media and showing up at city council and writing letters to your council people. There's so many different tools, and we're really just one part of this long history. And so we wanted to acknowledge that as we move forward with this conversation. So as Jennifer said, we want to make a key distinction between land use and zoning. So zoning is the, actual district, right? So you might have an agriculturally zoned district, but that doesn't mean that only agricultural uses are allowed in that zoning district. So here we have an example where this is a real example in the city of Dallas. In an agricultural zoning district, you can have a circus, you can have a cemetery, or you can have an art museum. And that's just 3 examples to highlight that even in a specific zoning district, there can be many different land uses. And that's important as we go into the historic district and how it's zoned, while still maintaining flexibility in the types of land uses available for this group. So zoning is the actual governance of the land. So these are the rules that kind of dictate what can and can't be allowed on an individual's property. And, by and large, it's supposed to promote the public health, safety, and general welfare of the public, but oftentimes we see that it can be used in detrimental ways as well in different communities. So as you see in this diagram, you have, the height, the setback, the lot size, and parking requirements. And those are the types of rules that zoning can really dictate. Luckily, Jennifer is a resident expert on zoning and has provided these very user-friendly videos that are available online, and I'm sure we can email you all out this PowerPoint, but they're pretty easy to find on YouTube. So I would highly recommend, I watch them sometimes just to get a refresher. So I'd highly recommend reviewing them if you have a chance. One of the types of zoning districts, because there's several different zoning districts, right? I just talked about agriculture, but we also have residential and we also have commercial. Think of it like the different building blocks that make up a city. One of them is called a planned development district, a PD, and it's basically like a customized zoning district. So let's say you have a small area like 10th Street, and within that area, you have many different uses that you want to be within that same area. A PD would allow that flexibility to include different aspects of a zoning district in one confined space. So it's basically, just think about it like a customized zoning district that draws on different pieces of other zoning district. And it's really just to allow for flexibility. That's the biggest upshot.
And so the 10th Street Historic District has a PD, a Planned Development District, which is PD 388. And so PD 388, that's your base zoning. And for those of you who are watching via video conference, we have a map where you see the boundaries of this PD. And 10th Street, when you look at the zoning, it's split into 4 different tracts, 4 different areas. And as Evelyn mentioned, each tract will have its different uses. And so it's really important to know your property, which tract you fall in. That way you understand that, what are the other uses that could also appear next door to you. And also a PD will have information on site elements, right? Where are you going to place the fences? What are the appropriate colors for structures and color placement? What are the rear and side setbacks? And so PDs not only have the ordinance that talk about the uses, but will have supplementary documents that give you more information. And one of those documents is the preservation criteria. And so we just talked about the base zoning, right? PD 388, that is 10th Street. But 10th Street also has a historic overlay. And so the historic overlay, the purpose of that is to preserve places and areas of historical, cultural, or architectural importance and significance if the place or area has 3 or more of the following characteristics. And so this definition is pulling from the city of Dallas, and 10th Street in the 90s was recognized as one of those places in the city of Dallas that has at least one of these 3 things. So there's importance on history, heritage, culture, there was a historic event, significant people, the architecture, etc., etc. And so again, 10th Street has the PD 388, but then they also have a historic overlay, which touches upon the preservation criteria. And so just to recap, what makes up the 10th Street Historic District is your base zoning. And as Evelyn said, the purpose of zoning should be to promote the public health, safety, and general welfare. So you have that, and you add the historic overlay. And the purpose of the historic overlay is to preserve places and areas of historical and cultural importance. And so you combine those 2 together, and that is the 10th Street Historic District zoning. You're muted, Evelyn.
Apologies. So one of the reasons why this is relevant for us to be talking about this year more than ever is because of the comprehensive planning process. And so every city, including the city of Dallas, is required to have a comprehensive land use plan. And you can kind of see in that map, it's very, very broad because it's encompassing the entire city. And it's basically a roadmap for land use decisions, development regulations, and how money is spent, right? And so what's on the books for the comprehensive land use plan dictates the daily decisions made at City Hall when it comes to land use and development. So it's pretty important to know what your neighborhood looks like in this comprehensive plan. And if it doesn't look like you'd want it to be, raise that point. And Forward Dallas is the name of Dallas's comprehensive plan, and it was adopted in 2009. And for the first time since then, this year, the city is reviewing and updating that plan. So this is sort of a once in a decade moment where the city is comprehensively looking at land use and projecting the roadmap for the next 20 years within the city of Dallas. And when I say if the comprehensive plan doesn't reflect what you want, a tool to correct that is to create a neighborhood plan. So unlike the comprehensive plan, which is the entire city with vague land use, allocation, a neighborhood plan is very specific to your neighborhood. And you get to obviously make that plan and get down to the block to block, parcel to parcel level, and that specificity gives you and your plan precedence over what's in the comprehensive plan. So you get to take the first kind of, you get to use your neighborhood plan to leverage any zoning and land use decisions at City Hall if it gets adopted, right? So we see this as a major tool for self-determination and neighborhood equity. And in case it wasn't, clear, what we're here to do is help and facilitate and provide technical assistance to you all in the development of a neighborhood plan. And just a distinction, there's two different ways that you can get a neighborhood plan adopted in the city of Dallas. One is for the process to be city-led. And so that means the city of Dallas says, all right, 10th Street, we're going to do a neighborhood plan. We want to invite you to come to our meeting, and we're going to facilitate and lead you through this process. That's a city-led plan. And to be a city-led plan, your area has to be identified as an area for potential economic development. And I'm sure you all are more than aware of the ways that often 10th Street is targeted for different projects that seem to be coming from the outside versus homegrown. So we're wary of city-led plans, especially given that out of the 33 adopted area plans in the city, 30 of them are city-led. And that contrasts to neighborhood-led plans. So that is a grassroots, neighborhood-driven project like this one, right? The city didn't come to you all are putting forward a plan that you will eventually bring the city in on. And within Dallas, there's only 3 neighborhood-led plans, all of which are in higher income, majority white communities in northern Dallas. So this is a major imbalance we see, because if neighborhood-led planning is a way to get control of the community, self-determined process to envision and promote a plan that you all want to see, the fact that there's none as of today south of the Trinity River or I-30, we think needs to change. And these maps just illustrate that disparity.
So as Evelyn shared, the neighborhood plan, it is an extended process. And so it's not just one meeting, 1 month we'll hash all the details out. No, it really is a several month process, sometimes even up to a year, especially with COVID. We'll have to be really creative. But we do want to plug in the next community meeting, which is 2 weeks from today, same time, 10 a.m. And this one is really focused on the visioning piece. What is the community's aspirations, vision, hopes, desires? And it'll be all on Zoom. And we'll be using an activity. It won't be like this presentation today where we're showing presentation slides. It'll be much more conversational. And we do ask for you all to bring several materials. And what we mean by that, we're not saying to go ahead and buy things, but find things you find at home, any random materials. It could be forks, it could be a TV remote, a paper, pencil, instruments, you name it. And why these materials are important for you to bring at the next meeting is that we will be using your home materials to build your ideal neighborhood that preserves the 10th Street Historic District. And this is a technique that Evelyn and I have both used in other neighborhoods. Those of you watching, you can see here, pre-COVID, we brought the materials to you and we could all get together and talk about what we create. And really, it might seem like a very simple task, but you'll realize that in this activity, so much of the conversation, so many valuable information comes out of these conversations, and it really matters. This meeting truly also matters because the vision, right? It's truly the backbone of the neighborhood plan. The vision will inform, okay, we need to look into X details, right? And so it's really, really important. And we hope you're able to attend. And it's also a very much so family-friendly event. I mean, we've hosted this type of activity with young kids all the way to older individuals. It's really a welcoming type of meeting. And so it'll be, like I said, 2 weeks from today, 10 a.m. And like I said, we just ask for you to find random materials at home, and we'll be talking about your ideal neighborhood. And then we'll start listening to other people's too. Like what do they aspire and see? What are the common themes that we hear, and how can we all work together to reach those goals? And so again, we just want to thank you all for being here this morning.